How's it going, guys? Welcome to my workshop. Today we're going to do something a little different. Let's say you wanted to play Flesh and Blood, but you didn't know where to start. Well, you have a few options. You could try getting a Blitz deck. The only problem with that is you have to buy a bundle to play the new ones, and unless you really want to play all three, it's kind of a big ask. The second thing you can do is you can get the KO Armory deck, or coming up pretty soon, the Bolton Armory deck. But let's say your LGS doesn't have that. You could buy it online, and to be honest, the KO Armory deck has gone down in price, and it's kind of tempting to buy another one. You're pretty much buying an MSRP, but for today, we're going to assume you can't find it. Your LGS does not have any product for you to buy to make your own deck. What do you do? Well, you could make your own deck, which is what I've done right here. This is what I call the Katsu starter deck. It is a roughly, give or take, $40 deck that uses the basic core strategy of Katsu's ability plus ninjas wanting to go wide. And did I mention it only costs around 40 bucks? Now, I do have to put an asterisk there. Pretend I'm drawing an asterisk. I say $40 deck. There's a few things to keep in mind, though, as we talk about this. One, prices change whenever metas change. So right now, the cards I bought for this deck, well, I used for this deck, roughly equal to 40 bucks. That could change if, let's say, Katsu does something crazy and wins Worlds, and Katsu cards just skyrocket to the moon. It could also change because something else happened, and now Katsu cards have dropped rock bottom, and now you can make this deck for $10. Prices change. At the time of me recording this, the deck costs around 40 bucks, but that's if you include the cost of commons and rares and all that fun stuff. Another thing to keep in mind, even though I say it's a $40 deck, that does not include the accessories. So yes, the Professor box does cost quite a bit, and the sleeves also cost like 16 bucks on their own. Don't include that in the price. We're only talking about the deck. Now, one thing I do want to show, though, is when I first made this deck, and I will say the deck does play good, I made one huge mistake, among many, but one mistake for sure. And that is, instead of using Mask of Many Faces, I used Mask of the Wizened Whiskers. If you're asking me why, I don't know. Truth is, I forgot this card exists. That is how much Outsiders has left my memory. Use this card. Alright, so we're going to switch to February to look at the deck list, see its current price, which will probably change by the time you watch this, and yeah, how you can make your own fun little Katsu deck that actually did decent at an Armory. I went 1 and 2, and really the first game was all misplaying, the second game was mechanoid to death, and the third game was pretty fun. So let's switch to February. And we are now in February. As you can see, this video is sponsored by Camp Green Tree. No, it's not, that's a joke. But February does have ads now, and they're not intrusive, so that's good. I'll have to pay for February one of these days, but I'm glad the ads aren't that crazy. But as we can see, and the price of the deck, the cheapest price for this deck is $40, which isn't 100% true, as most of this deck is made of bulk. And February does round their prices to the closest dollar. So this could be a $39 deck, and they rounded it to $40. They often round really cheap decks to $10 at the minimum. And another thing to point out is that there's one difference between the deck I'm going to show you and the deck I actually played. And I'm not talking about Mask of the Wizened Whiskers. I ran Mask of the Wizened Whiskers because when I was building the first deck, first draft of it, I ran this card, and then for some reason it hit me in the middle of a game. Why didn't I run Mask of Many Faces? But the card that's actually different from the deck I'm going to show you is that I ran Silverwind Shuriken. Now the reason for this is because I'm actually short one of the cards on this list, and I had to pick something quick to go to take its place. And Silverwind Shuriken kind of fit the bill, except for it doesn't block. I'm talking about the card Dishonor. I only have 2 copies of Dishonor, but the deck actually runs 3 of them. So with that, let's head to the deck and I'll show you this Katsu starter deck real quick. We are running Katsu the Wanderer, OG Ninja, 40 health, 4 intellect. We are running for our main equipment, Breaking Scales, Breeze Rider Boots, 2 Harmonized Kodachis, Mask of Many Faces, and Vest of the First Fist. For our main deck, we are running 6 copies of Be Like Water, red and blue, 9 copies of Bonds of Ancestry, all colors, 9 copies of Descendant Gustwave, all colors, 6 copies of Flick Flack, red and blue, 9 copies of 100 Winds, all colors, 9 copies of Whelming Gustwave, all colors, 3 Mugenshi Release, 3 Dishonor for the actual deck, 2 for the one I played, 3 copies of Lord of Winds, and 3 copies of Winds of Eternity. As for our sideboard, starter deck sideboards are kind of hard to build and not have them be expensive, so this is a very generic sideboard. We have 6 poppers for any illusionist matchup, 3 Oasis Respites for that wizard matchup, and then various Arcane Barrier for whatever Arcane Barrier you need, and Blazing Yori because we're running Ninja. So with the deck covered, let's go over some strategies. So Katsu the Wanderer, if you're not familiar, is the OG Ninja. He has a very interesting hero ability where the first time an attack action card you control hits, you may discard a card with cost 0, and then you may search your deck for a card with combo, banish it, shuffle your deck, and you may play it this turn. This is great for combo style because you want a specific card to come after a combo. Say you start off your attack with Descendant Gustwave, your opponent doesn't block, you hit them, you can then discard any of your random 0-cost cards in your hand and search for, say, Bonds of Ancestry. Because Bonds of Ancestry looks for a Gustwave card to be played, and it costs 2 less if you played that Gustwave card, you can banish Bonds of Ancestry red, play it for 0, it has go again, and because it's comboed, you can activate its effect. If you banished, say, 100 Winds, if you discarded 100 Winds for Katsu's ability, you could then search your deck for another 100 Winds and play that afterwards. Or, if you want to be really degenerate, like you can with the Zen strategy, have Descendant Gustwaves and Bonds of Ancestries already in your graveyard, and then, as long as you have the resources, you can Bonds into Descendant, into Bonds, into Descendant, into Bonds, as long as you can pay for it, which you're going to be paying 1 every time you play Descendant. Now, if you can actually pull off Be Like Water, or use Mask of Many Faces to rename any of your Go Again 0-cost cards, Descendant Gustwave comes in for free, and it gets +2. Let's run an imaginary scenario. Let's say you've been playing this for a while, there's a few cards in your graveyard, and you're looking for a good combo line to really throw some shade at your opponent. For whatever reason, you now have a 4-card hand. Maybe your opponent hit you for not as much damage as you thought, you just took it all. And let's say you have Descendant Gustwave red in hand, you have Whelming Gustwave red, Whelming Gustwave blue, and we'll say you have some other random Be Like Water blue in hand. So you have a 4-card hand, and you want to get back at your opponent for hitting you a lot. What you could do is you could launch your Descendant Gustwave red at your opponent for 3, go again, pitching your Whelming Gustwave blue. If your opponent doesn't block it, which they might not, it is 3 vanilla damage, you can then activate Katsu's ability. Discard your Be Like Water blue and search for Bonds of Ancestry red. So you look for Bonds of Ancestry and banish that card. Now, because Descendant Gustwave is already on the combat chain, you can throw Bonds of Ancestry. Let's assume that Dishonor is already in your graveyard because you're smart and blocked with it early on, or something like that. You can activate Bonds of Ancestry's ability, which says you can banish a card from your graveyard with combo and search your deck for a card with the same name. Then banish that one and you may play it this turn. Now you launch Dishonor, which you have banished at your opponent for 4 because Bonds of Ancestry was the last card played. Your opponent will block this, But what if they don't? Well, they lose their hero ability for the rest of the game. And you still have something you can do. So you've launched Dishonor, you still have Whelming Gust Wave Red in your hand for whatever reason, you have 2 resources floating, and you hit them with Dishonor. You can then activate Breeze Rider Boots to give it go again. Or, if your opponent only blocked for 4, you could have activated Breaking Scales to give your Dishonor +1, hitting them for 1. Either way, you can still activate Breeze Rider Boots, giving Dishonor go again, and now you can either launch a Whelming Gust Wave for 3, it won't have anything, but it will gain go again because of the Breeze Rider Boots, and then launch 2 Kodachis for 2 more damage, and you have effectively given your opponent, you have launched 16 damage at your opponent. Hopefully you didn't take too much damage in the, when they hit you. 16 for a starter deck is not bad at all. On top of that, your opponent probably lost their hero ability. And that's kind of a shoot the moon situation. Truth is, this deck is really straightforward, and I designed it kind of to be like the KO deck in a way. The KO deck focused on a payoff consistency strategy, and I wanted the Katsu deck to do the same thing. Where the core of the deck is consistency and knowing what cards to look for without being too complicated and relying too much on stuff like Art of War, E-Strike, other cards that meta Katsu decks use. Because if you're a new player, you don't need all those cards yet. Are they nice to have? Yes. Are you going to get them eventually? Yes. In fact, down here, we have cards you'll want in the future. Ancestral Empowerment is a very good ninja attack reaction. Draw a card, and your ninja attack gets +1. Bittering Thorns is debatable. It's pretty good now because it's 1 for 4, but it also blocks for 2, so it's something to think about. Command and Conquer is easily replaced. It will easily replace your Brutal Assault or Raging Onslaught. Deadly Duo is an interesting one depending on what your strategy is. Double Strike is a good card as well. These are all good cards you can throw in the deck, but they also raise the price of the deck. Most of them do, some don't, but many will raise the price. Ancestral Harmony is a card that is very good right now, and if you're going to run Katsu, you're going to want it eventually. But before that, you have to know how to play the game. Don't spend $90 on a Mask of Momentum for a hero you're never going to play. It's a waste of money, and the only person who's going to profit off that is the person you bought the card from. You can buy a Mask of Pouncing Lynx though. It's not that bad. And to be honest, I thought this card was banned. It's only banned in Blitz. And that brings me to point 2 of this deck. The KO Armory deck, whether intentional or not, has this unique ability to transform into a fully legal Blitz deck. In fact, it's a really good Blitz deck, I know this for a fact, because it is so consistent your opponent won't know what to do. So when I designed this deck, I kind of designed it the same way. If you wanted to, you could take out one of every card, and you should have a fully legal Blitz deck. Now for the sideboard, that's a bit different, as you'll have to take out more than one of each, or in this case, maybe not run it at all. You could probably forego most of the Arcane Barrier. But the main deck itself is easily converted into a Blitz deck. So if you go to your armory and you find out, oh no, they're playing Blitz tonight, all you gotta do, reduce your health in half, and take out one of each card, and you have a fully legal Blitz deck. And that's it. That's the Katsu starter deck. I made this for my brother to give him as a birthday gift, as it's been really hard to get him into Flesh and Blood, mostly because of time, but also a little bit because of money. And I figured if I can get him a good starting deck to start with, it'll help push him more into exploring this game. Obviously, you can't force someone to like a game. And there's a high chance it'll go on the shelf and he'll never see play. But hey, that happens sometimes. But hopefully, you can make use of this deck. You, the new player, or you, the player who has that new friend who's looking at Katsu but doesn't know where to start. There's many changes you can make to this deck, and that's one of the goals of this deck is to make it so upgrades are there for you. have fun. Try building this deck. Try playing it yourself. I mean, I went 1 and 2 on my armory. I bet you this could win an armory if you had the skill and some luck was involved. It's not winning a skirm. It's not winning a tournament, no. But you don't need to win a tournament. You just need to know how to play. So yeah, I've been the Mad Mechanologist. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, leave a like. Leave a comment if you have your own ideas. If you want to see more starter decks, let me know. I have ideas for other heroes as well. I also had a thought of making commoner CC decks, but we'll see how that goes. I'm going to go work on something else. I'm going to launch my 100 wins for 3. Oh, you blocked it? Oh, I guess I will throw bonds for 4 and end my turn.